Welcome to the show, everybody. Micah with CoronavirusDiaries. Today, I'm fortunate enough to be able to speak again with Joe Cebula, a personal trainer and co-host of the Maximus Podcast. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to be back. I love doing your show.
Oh, I appreciate that. So we've been in this state of lockdown here in Minnesota now or Wisconsin as well, for about going on 2 months now.
Yeah.
Restrictions are starting to ease a bit, but nonetheless, we're still in what would be presumably the middle of all this stuff. But all that aside, right before we started our session today, you were sharing that you're out for a run, you're getting it in, and you're talking a little bit about motivation.
And it's kind of funny because it came out because I had absolutely none this morning, like none. It was like my daughter was trying to wake me up and it was like, I don't want to get out of bed. Like I don't. But I think that's something a lot of people struggle with, is this idea that you have to feel motivated to do things. And something I've developed over years and years of practice. So I'm not going to pretend like this is easy, but I don't care if I feel motivated or not. I have to do what I have to do. And so I'm disciplined enough. You know what I mean? Like motivation will get you started. Motivation will make you feel good about it on day one, but like on day two, you're not going to feel the same. Day three, you're definitely not going to feel the same. And so you have to stay consistent. You have to build the habits. And then the motivation is not as important. And I say that because it's almost hypocritical for me, because I always do an Instagram post. It's my Motivation Monday. And I try to say something that'll get people up and get them moving, because I know people need that start. They need that start. But then at the same time, I preach like you don't need motivation to get started. You just need to start. But one of the questions that kind of led into this is you had asked me about pre-workout.
Yeah.
And that's what I see pre-workout as. It's just like a substitute for motivation. And it can be a good thing. I use it sometimes. I don't use it all the time. I don't use it consistently. But there are days like when I have to get a workout at a particular time, because it's the only time I'm going to be able to get it in that day. And when that time comes, man, I am just not feeling it. And I don't want to head into the workout environment, whether it's gym, home, whatever you've got, and just kind of mope through it. You know what I mean? Like I need to get the work done. That's where something like my pre-workout generally is just coffee. I'll just have a cup of coffee, 20 minutes before I work out, just enough time to let that caffeine kick in a little bit, and like, fine, I can get up and I can move on that. For people who are like on a consistent basis like that, and the example I used when we were chatting about it before was if you're working like a 9 to 5 desk job and you have to hit the gym on your way home, like on your way to the gym is the time to hit the pre-workout, because by the time you get there, you're going to be amped up. You're going to be ready to rock. You're going to be ready to get your workout on, because you have to get the work done at that time. You can't sit around waiting until your body's in ideal condition and the moon and the stars and the sun align and everything's great and I feel good and let's go get it on. Like sometimes you do need that little bit of an artificial boost just to get through it a little bit better. But it's not something that I would want to rely on. You know what I mean? Like the discipline is something you can rely on.
Yeah. What do you see as some of the negative aspects of becoming to rely on something like that?
Right off the bat, it's cost. I mean, you're going to end up having to invest in this product time and time again. You know what I mean? You get the little tub from GNC, or you order it online. And I mean, if you're hitting one workout a day, 5 days a week, like you're going through that tub every 2 weeks, and sometimes the stuff that's in there is not all that different than meth. And so when you think about what it's doing internally, like all that stimulation, that can't be good for you. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to cite any studies that say, oh, it's linked to this, it's linked to that, but I see the potential for problems there. And
so one of those many years ago, the Jacked 3D, it was it was wildly, it blew up because it made people want to go and like lift all the things and run forever. And then after a few months, because a lot of that stuff, right, it can go on the shelves and it can be on the shelf for like a year before it gets FDA approval, or it gets caught as,
if it needs it at all, to be honest with you, if it needs it at all. Here's how the supplement company works. All right. At least I would say it's not everybody. I'm not going to like throw everybody under the bus. There are some really good companies out there, but for the longest time, the way that it would operate is, okay, Joe and Micah, we decide that we're going to release Jacked 4D. Okay.
Right.
So what we do, we come up with a base formula, which they're all pretty much the same stuff. You need, your beta alanine, you're going to need your caffeine in there, maybe something sweet so it tastes good. But you know what else we're going to put in there? We're going to put in a little bit of meth. We're going to put in something really nasty
because there was professional athletes that were popping for
yes. I mean, we're putting an amphetamine in our product. We know we're going to do this up front, but we form Joe and Micah LLC. We build this company on that LLC. We ship this product out, and for 3 months we fill it with amphetamine. So everything on the shelf is doped. I mean, it's just ridiculously dope. But the average gym goer who's not taking, any kind of, PED tests, right? They're just like, man, this stuff is amazing. My lifts have been through the roof. I'm going crazy. Like, this is the best product on earth. And they tell two people, and we make a ton of money, but it's expensive to put that stuff in there. It's risky. So after a month, 2 months of producing that way, we just pull that ingredient out. It tastes the same, right? But now it's not doped like the other stuff was. And so either sales are going to dwindle because the next new thing pops up and we just got overshadowed, or we're going to get popped. And the FDA is going to come in and shut us down. Yeah. So they just shut down Joe Micah LLC. So now we open up Micah Joe LLC. Yeah. We create Jacked 5D, and we do the same thing all again. And that's just that's how this that's how the supplement industry had functioned forever and ever and ever. You could just shut down one LLC, but the guys that constitute that LLC aren't under any personal obligations because the company folded. And so now you have a new company and you just repeat that process. And it could be the same chemicals, the same formula, the same facilities, just a different label on the bottle.
Yeah, I can only imagine, because I'd heard that was kind of one of the ways that they were circumventing law was using like a new chemical compound that is essentially the same thing. They just vary it slightly. But for these professional athletes, right, the ones that are under a strict training regimen and testing, and they're competing, how quickly something like that can derail their.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing, and something I try to keep in mind whenever we're talking about any like societal issues in the United States of America, it always comes down to capitalism, right? If you're a professional athlete and you're getting paid millions of dollars, it's because you're generating millions of dollars of revenue. So if you're the owner of a professional team and one of your players is getting popped for PEDs, like you're weighing and balancing, like what's the cost? Like if I have to deal with the negative publicity of that, like do I even? I mean, is it even important? Is he like a B-string player that nobody's ever heard of? Then you just like cut him, you're done. You know what I mean? But if it's like a Barry Bonds situation, now you're like, is this going to affect ticket sales?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because who cares? If all I want to see is Barry hitting dingers, I don't care what you pump into that man. You know what I mean? Like I want to see a freak show.
As long as his head stops growing, man.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's entertainment. I'm okay with that. But again, if everybody's like, you know what, I don't want to watch a guy who's all doped up. I don't want to watch a guy with a giant melon head anymore. All of a sudden ticket sales drop, and now they've got to make a decision. And that's before you even get to the, like, it's just not good for the person. I mean, most of the banned substances, there's a reason they're banned. They're not just banned because they work. You know what I mean? Yeah, like creatine works. It's not a banned substance. Sorry, what was that?
Most of the bodybuilders, they end up dying very young, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of these things are tied with cancer. They're tied with heart disease, and a lot of the studies are pretty conclusive where it's like, this happens in the CrossFit community a lot where people will be taking a new supplement, not realize that there's a particular chemical in it. They'll get popped and then they'll find out. Yeah. And say, oh, that chemical is actually tied to like liver disease. And it's like, well, shit, if I would have known that, there's no way I would have taken this stuff. But who knows? It's not like you become this great athlete and also a chemist. You know what I mean? Like you don't. So you're kind of trusting these companies. And then like anything else, you'll look and they'll be like, oh, this is a clean label, supplement that I'm taking. Maybe it's just a protein powder and it has this like little like approved clean label, no banned substances. But like, how do you know that? They just printed that on the label. I don't know the guys that own the company. Now I happen to know some folks that do some supplement companies. I have some personal relationships with these guys. Yeah, and it's nice to know that. It's like buying local, like going to a farmer's market. You know where your vegetables are coming from. That's Farmer Sally. She lives around the corner from me. I see her grow her vegetables. Like I'm comfortable buying from her. You know what I mean? Right. There was a guy that used to do meat deliveries at my gym, grass-fed beef, and it was like an open door policy. If you want to come out and see the farm, see where we slaughter the cattle, see how they're treated while they're alive, what we're feeding them, like it's open door. Like I'm good with that. So if you're curious about a supplement and you contact the company and they don't invite you out to see the facilities, like that's something to think about right there.
Well, like you're talking with capital, I think that's I believe it's true myself. Is they even with recalls on stuff, it's, if we do this recall, is it going to cost more than if we just kind of let it go and then there's a fatality? But again, like I've shared before, that I'm a big fan of mixed martial arts, and one of the fight leagues, inevitably people end up popping, and in some cases these people they've popped multiple times over the course of their career, and they're like the pinnacle of their weight class.
Mm-hmm.
They continually win, and yet they keep getting to come back, and you start looking at it going, okay, some of these people pop and then they're gone. Like you never hear from them again because they're cut. Whereas these other people that are maybe more of a superstar, they're like, well, actually, it was a mistake, or this, there's a million excuses. Case in point, like I was just noticing, I watched that, The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan, and there's an ad that keeps running for a new series called something like 30 for 30, and it's all these professional athletes. And I saw they did this huge expose on Lance Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know where that went, and yet at the same time, right now, they're right back in the forefront of being this incredible athlete. And I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but and in that sport, there's a lot of folks that would say pretty much everybody's doing something. It's just some people get caught, and some.
The phrase is it's not a drug test; it's an IQ test.
Yeah.
I mean, because the idea is like, no, you have to be stupid to get popped, because you haven't done your homework, you haven't looked into how they're testing, you haven't figured out your way around the protocol. So it's like an arms race of like, what can I get away with?
You think motivation leads people into that type of performance enhancing drug?
Well, think of it this way. Like, first of all, I think most people misunderstand what performance enhancing drugs actually do for people. I mean, it's not like you just take this pill and grow all kinds of muscle and become a great athlete. Like most of what the drugs, the most effective ones, they basically help with recovery. So you can go to the gym today and you can just annihilate yourself, and then you can take this drug and then come back tomorrow and do it all over again, and come back tomorrow and do it all over again, and come back the next day and do it all over again. And so your work
faster.
Yeah, and your work volume is just huge compared to someone who's not doping, who can work out hard one day and then needs to take a little bit of a rest, and then work out again and take another bit of rest. And so you're just getting stronger faster. You know what I mean? Because you're not inhibited by the need to recover between workouts. That's mostly what these drugs do, is they just get you to a point where you can just come in and repeat efforts, and so that the volume of work goes up. And for a lot of folks, that's just a shortcut because they're just impatient. I don't want to put 10 years into my bodybuilding career to get to the size of like a professional wrestler. I want that next year. Like, what are you going to do? Your body's not conditioned to the amount of work that those guys have been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years of God. That's how you play catch up. You know what I mean? I look at it as like, let's say you're a professional athlete. You're like a B string player on an MLB team. And it's like, you're working your ass off. You're giving it 100%, but the guys above you are just a little bit, they just got something you ain't got.
The edge.
Yeah. They got some edge on you, and maybe they're doping, maybe they're not. You don't know. Maybe you do know they're doping. It doesn't matter. The question is, what are you going to do to get to that next level? Because that next level is a different world. You go from making minimum wage in the league to being one of the top paid people. Like, that's a life-changing thing.
Star.
Yeah. And so, if you've been working at it, your heart is in it, you're trying everything you can, but you just can't break through, like, how tempting it must be to just look for anything. Already by the time you get to the pro level, we're talking about, tenths of a percent of difference between the top and the bottom players. Like, you got to do everything you can to get that next little edge. Like, how tempting it is to just say, well, I'll just take one dose and see what happens. You know what I mean? I'll take my chances this season and see what happens. And then you wonder, like, how many guys have done that? And would you blame them? Yeah. But I mean, like, some guy comes out his rookie year and he's huge and he signs this huge contract and then just kind of never performs again. Like, maybe he just tried it that one season and it was enough to get him to that point, and he got his paycheck and now he's just getting out.
So like, back to the mixed martial arts again. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast where he was talking about Mike Tyson coming back to box. And, we're talking senior.
Yeah.
And one of the conversations that they delved into was how at one time this certain fight league that Joe Rogan's announces for, they'd allowed a stipulation where once somebody hit a certain age, if they were having natural declines in certain hormones, that they were allowed to take to basically take steroids in order to boost those levels, and it was legal. And they did it for a short time period, and there was dudes that came back that were turned into monsters and just destroying people smaller than them. And then they were like, all right, we got to stop this because it's crazy. But he was talking about how with this boxing, you know, Mike Tyson, there's another individual, I'm blanking on his name now, but they're scheduled to fight each other, and they're both well into their 50s. And they're saying, you know, if they aren't going to test these dudes, they might very well be performing at a level of somebody that's much younger that still has those levels. And it's going to raise a lot of ethical questions of, you know, is it okay?
Okay, I'm going to go back to point number one, capitalism. Are you going to pay money to see this man fight? Are you going to pay money to watch Mike Tyson fight? And I don't care who he's fighting. He could be fighting a crippled old lady, and I guarantee there's people who would drop $100 for the pay-per-view. Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, so this on the surface is not like, let's watch boxing history and the beauty of the sport. This is a freak show. Yes. This is 100% like we're uncaging an animal and we're going to let it destroy something, and you're going to pay money to see it. You know, this is the Roman circus here. This is insanity. So does it matter? Yeah. I mean, do you want to see two old guys like circle each other and then pass out from exhaustion on the first round, or do you want to see some fist flying? You know what I mean?
We don't see somebody get knocked out. That's why you watch fighting. Some watch it for the technicality, but I'd say by and large, the majority of the drunk fans in the stadium, they want to see blood and they want to see a knockout. So
yeah, like I said, it's the Coliseum for the most part. I mean, that's kind of what MMA really goes back to, you know? So like in my perspective, and I'm just very open about it. Like I don't care if Mike Tyson is doping or not. Yeah, I'd be surprised if he isn't, honestly. You know, just watching how he moves. But I mean, the guy's been an animal his whole life, so who's to say? Yeah. And again, does it really matter? And in the end, I mean, I'll pay money to see him.
I'm gonna watch the fight. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it regardless. I don't care if they say they are or they aren't. Yeah. But so to circle back to kind of how this whole conversation was initiated, you know, this idea of motivation versus discipline. How do you get yourself, you know, how have you gotten yourself to the point where, like you said, this morning you were just dragging, you're like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do this. What did it take for you to get to that level where you're like, you're literally pulling yourself out and you're not relying on anything to get you to this level of performance? You do it. Like, where does that come from?
It's not like there's like one thing, you know what I mean? It's like if it was like, oh yes, every morning when you wake up, you need to like tweak your nose and tug your ear and you'll get everything done that you want to do. Like, people would have figured that out. Yeah. For me, a lot of it actually stems from my martial arts background, right? And not so much as in like even the physical side of it, but just the core values that are instilled in classical Taekwondo, right? So they teach courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, indomitable spirit. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, you learn that stuff. You're doing your colored belt thing. You're at your test, and they're like, you know, what does courtesy mean to you? And you're like, it means to be nice to people. Like, you're not internalizing it then. But years later, even in a professional setting, I started asking myself, like, in situations that come up, and it'd be ambiguous. Like, I don't know, should I listen to person A? Should I listen to person B? Well, you know, what does courtesy dictate here? First of all, my scene in this, like, what does it mean to be courteous in this scenario, right? Sure. Where does integrity fall in? Because that's something that I've been teaching other people. I should probably embrace that as something that I believe in. And you know, amongst those are two that sound a lot alike to people, and that's perseverance and indomitable spirit. And so what does it mean to persevere, right? It means to never give up. I'm never going to give up in spite of, you know, terrible odds. I'm always going to push forward. The best way that I actually look at perseverance is understanding, like, why do we fall, so that we can learn to pick ourselves back up, right? Nice. So that's the action of persevering is taking action. Despite the fact that I failed, I'm going to continue to try. I'm never going to lose that. And within that is something called indomitable spirit, which means I'm not just going to do it to do it. You know what I mean? Like, even if I myself have to go up against 10,000 people and fight to the death, like, I'm going to embrace it like I'm going to win. I'm not going to walk into it like my fate has been sealed. I'm going to do what I got to do. You know what I mean? I have to imagine that I'm going to be a winner. Yeah. And when you take that mentality and you apply that to perseverance, I'm not just like getting punched and then moping up and walking forward and getting punched again. And then like, here it comes, boom, and getting hit again. It's like every time you hit that, you're like, okay, this time's going to be different. This time I'm going to win. You know what I mean? And
positive attitude.
yeah, it is. It really is. And it's something that you have to cultivate. You have to work on like anything else. I mean, if you want to get good at push-ups, you got to do push-ups. If you want to get good at squats, you got to do squats. If you want to get good at persevering, you got to persevere. You know, because like I said,
where you're getting challenged regularly.
Yeah, exactly. If everything in front of you is easy, what do you need perseverance for? You know what I mean? Your core value is more of one of like, don't ever challenge yourself. Like take the easy path. That's your core value. And my question to everybody who takes that route is, well, how's that working for you? You know what I mean? Like, how's your fitness? How's your mental health?
A year ago, huh?
Yeah, exactly. You know, the path of least resistance takes you to a place of no resistance, no change. You know, convenience kills. I'm not looking for convenience. I'm not looking for the easy path. You know, if it was like work out 20 minutes a day, 3 days a week, and you can have massive 6-pack abs and giant biceps, like, I don't know, like that almost doesn't make it's not worth it. You don't have to work for it at all. I want the thing that when you get up in the morning, you have to fight through it. You have to just say, you know what, look, I've set a goal for myself. I know what I want and I know what I need to do. And my personal feelings on the matter just aren't that important. You know, not right now.
I've always enjoyed seeing, you know, in fitness magazines, you get to the section that's all or now it's just basically throughout a lot of all the things they're trying to sell you. And it's always the pill to cut fat without having to do anything, or it's always the stuff that you drink that'll help you get shredded. Or there's like I love it, the 6-pack electrode thing.
Yeah.
Just put these on and
that got super popular in CrossFit like 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm like, these were hot in the 70s, guys.
Yeah, Bruce Lee used to. I remember seeing something where he had the thing on it. It's like making all the muscles twitch. I've always seen that and been like, man, how cool would that be to just put on some electrodes and turn a button on and suddenly you get jacked, you know, like how easy. But, you know, I think if you get to, you know, the point, if it actually did work,
but think about what does all of that appeals to is it appeals to like, you don't have to put any effort forth. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's like, I don't even want to have to think about flexing my muscle to get that muscle to grow. I just want it to grow. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to do anything. You know what I mean? I don't have to stand up.
Yeah. So the back to capital again, right? It's this.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. Do you know why spam email exists? I mean, how many of those like penis enlarger pill emails is everybody getting every day? Yeah. There's a reason those persist, and that's because somebody out there is buying that shit, at least in a volume enough that it makes sense for these guys to continue to do this. If they lost money doing these spam email campaigns, they wouldn't do them. Yeah. Who would? You know what I mean? But somebody is out there buying millions of emails because tens of thousands of people are buying these ridiculous products. Yeah. And that's what you have to think about. So why do those fat pills that don't work still exist? Because somebody's buying that shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Psychology. It's people buy into it because they want the easy route.
What's easier to believe? All right, I'm looking at this poster behind me here. Is it easier to believe that I did this naturally by busting my ass for 12 weeks, dialing in every bite of food that went in my mouth, no cheat meals, no days off, or that I took a fat burning pill? Like, what's easier? You know what I mean? What's Occam's razor tells you?
You know, how often, you know, I've been in a number of conversations with people where, you know, in gyms where it's like, oh yeah, like somebody will get pointed out, they're pretty jacked and shredded. And it more like many times you'll hear somebody be like, yeah, I wonder if they're juicing.
Yeah.
Goes right there because somebody wants to believe, like they don't want to believe that if you put in the time, you put in the effort.
So one of the most common remarks I get when people start training with me is that they thought they were training hard before. Like, man, I thought I was working out hard, and then like your warm-ups murder me. Like I use big, long, very specific warm-ups. And in the beginning, if you're unconditioned, your workout literally is just the first half of my warm-up. Like, you have to be able to get through that whole warm-up before you can even pick up a barbell. You know what I mean? Like, it takes time for people to get to that level. And that's the thing. It's like, if you had any idea how hard I worked to achieve the image that's in this poster back here, it would blow your mind. You would say that's not possible, and there has to be an easier explanation. Because you've done hard work before. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't look like that, and I've worked hard, so it can't be hard work. And it's like, yeah, but your hard work didn't go to that. That wasn't your end goal. You know what I mean? You were overseas marching up hills with packs on and like doing other shit.
No,
and
not a whole lot of hills in the desert, but yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like everybody goes through their particular challenges, and everybody thinks they know what hard work is.
Yeah.
But it's like, for that to happen, like I had to change my business. I had to change the dynamic in my family. I had to change my whole life so that I could make that my goal. You know what I mean? Like that's not easy for people to understand. And for people to even understand, like, why would I be willing to do all of that work just for like this picture? And it's like, because now I'm sitting here pointing at this picture saying, that's what it took to get there.
Yeah.
It wasn't a magic pill. This didn't happen because I bought a Bowflex for, monthly payments with low interest rates and no payments for the first 12 months. You know what I mean? It wasn't 3 easy payments and $9.99. Like, I had to not just work hard today, not just put in a week of effort, not just diet for 3 days and then have a cheat meal. It was 12 weeks
grind
without any slacking off. I was hungry for 12 weeks to get that way. You know what I mean?
This, when you're working with clients, because a lot, like, really what you're talking about here is mindset, and it's psychology, and it's people knowing themselves and being able to, persevere. Do you have psychology or like that element where you're trying to specifically teach them and you're making them recognize?
Yeah, it's inevitable that it goes there. I'll be honest with you. Like, if you're, and I'll say there's a difference between being a trainer and being a coach. All right, this comes out in our podcast all the time. We use this language a lot. But being a trainer is like, okay, I have a program for you, and you're going to do 3 sets of 10, 4 sets of 10. You're going to do this. You're going to ride the bike for this long. You're going to do that, and I can sit there and I can count your reps: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, take a 2-minute rest. I'll run the stopwatch. That's called being a trainer. And you can be a great trainer, and you can know that these programs deliver particular results, but that's not coaching. Coaching is the relationship between the trainer and the person who's being trained, and recognizing, like, the reason the program isn't working is because there's something in the athlete that needs to change. And that's the harder thing, right? And like I said, when you're actually taking people away from the mentality of some magic pill, and you're trying to tell them, like, part of the reason their body looks and operates a certain way is because of the life they built for themselves. How are you going to avoid going down some of those rabbit holes? And realistically, when you come in and you're like, okay, I'm going to show you how to do a push-up, and I can rep out, 20, 30 push-ups in a row, and that person can't even do one, there's a separation.
Yeah.
And they automatically put me up on this pedestal and say, well, you've got something that I don't have. And it's like, but there was a time when I was the same. The difference is, like, I did the work. And that's what I'm trying to share with you is, like, how do you get from 0 to 100 miles an hour? How do you get from I can't do a push-up to I can do 30 of them? You know what I mean? And like, you have to have that trust, and they have to believe you, or else they're just going to say, oh, it's just your genes, and they'll just dismiss you. You know what I mean? There is some secret. You're just a Hollywood trainer, and all the people in Hollywood take some magic pill. They take their acai berry shakes, and that's what it takes. And if I want in, I have to be worth millions of dollars, or else it ain't worth your time to share that secret. And like, that is not true, folks. That is not true. It's like, literally, anybody can. Genetics be damned. I will tell you this right now. I was actually thinking about this morning. I do not have good genetics. You know what I mean? Like, I do not naturally walk around looking good. Like, it takes a shit ton of work. Now, my buddy Bobby, he looks pretty good all the time with very little effort. He's got better genes than me. So be it. He can be a little bit more lax on his diet than I can be. I can't eat like him. If I do, I balloon up. You know what? That's genetics.
So knowing
and that's
yourself.
Me. It is. It's me figuring out my own thing. And understanding, like, okay, how do I react to certain foods? Like, what happens if I go on a high carb diet versus a low carb diet? And how are you going to do that objectively unless you actually do that for a while and keep track of certain things, like your weight, your waist measurements, your body fat percentage? Like, you kind of have to dial that stuff in until you get to the point where you're like, yeah, I kind of know how my body reacts to things and what it likes and what it doesn't like, and what it's going to take for me to get from where I'm at to where I'm going. And that's why this morning when I woke up and I said, man, I feel like garbage. I really don't want to do anything. I just want to have a nice, easy day today. You know what it takes for me to look like that is, even when it feels like I should take a nice, easy day, I got to go for a 6-mile run. I got to get up and I got to go. And that all of a sudden it's like, fuck, man, it's on. Let's go.
I've always held you in the utmost respect since I've met you, just based on your work ethic and what I learned about you and what you continue to prove over time. But I gotta say, at one point in time, there's a mutual acquaintance that we have. I know you were working with them as a personal trainer, and I was talking to them, and your name came up, and they made the comment that you had told them if you were still their personal trainer in a year that you failed them. And I thought that was just the again, it was just like, well, that's Joe. It goes right to the psychology of, like you're saying, you're coaching somebody to be able to know themselves, have, their own specific mindset in order to achieve their own certain goals. And once you do that, you can remove yourself from the picture because they should be able to be self-sufficient. So
yeah, and at least on their own path. Now, and I will tell you, like, I still have a coach. You know what I mean? Like, there's still people that I go to for assistance because I know I'm not the be all end all. You know what I mean? Everybody I know who is a high level trainer hires another trainer. They don't do their own program. And so I feel like you're always on the search for like the guru at the top of the mountain in a certain respect. You're always looking for somebody to kind of tell you where you're screwing up. It's really helpful to have that outside perspective. It's funny that you bring her up because I know who you're talking about. But there's some very, very good truth to that. And if you're coming in and you're working out with me and I'm not keeping things secret, like, you should be able to pick up on what I'm doing and recognize, like, there's not anything magic in the sets and the reps and the weights that you're using. There's just where we're at today, where we're trying to go. How does today fit into that overall plan? And through that consistently showing up and being engaged and having those conversations, you start to see, like, yeah, I can come up with my own workouts, or I can grab one of your workout plans off your website and execute it at a much higher level because I understand, like, what these pieces are and how I can adjust and change things and where I shouldn't adjust and change things. That's what I try to make sure that people get. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to teach everybody every movement every day. I want them to be familiar enough with just their own bodies that they can figure a lot of stuff out. And honestly, it's, if I can teach a man to fish, like, he'll eat forever, right? So when you're coming in, I'm not just telling you what to do. I'm actually teaching you how to train. I'm teaching you how to coach, how to apply this stuff to everyone else in your life so that you can be a little beacon of light and you can help other people grow and help other people grow. And I learned this phrase a few years back, and it's just stuck with me, but come from a place of abundance. Assume that there is enough out there that we're all going to be okay. Don't hoard your little secrets like a little Gollum in a cave with his precious, like, when you want to see my precious, it'll cost you $50 a month. You know what I mean? It's like, there are no secrets, man. Everybody is entitled to this information. And if I continue to give and I continue to shine, then people will want to support me and people will want to come to me. And people who've trained with me for a year may want to stick with me just because they like it, just because they're having fun and because it's working. And because then that's their check-in with their coach, and then they can go and help other people. And that to me is way more beautiful. That is a life worth living to me, as opposed to just trying to get everybody to sign up for my 6-week shred, and make my millions of dollars and then retire to a beach somewhere. Like, that's kind of hollow.
Outstanding, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed this discussion. It's something that we kind of chatted about the last time we talked offline. I'm glad we went down this route. It's relevant now with what's going on in sports and your morning. But was there anything that we failed to touch on that you're hoping to touch base with before we go?
I show up here with an open mind. You know what I mean? I enjoy checking in with you and making sure you're doing all right too. Because we are friends, and you always get me going down some tangent I get excited. Maybe the coffee's finally kicking in. I don't know.
Maybe you'll go for another 6 mile, huh?
Yeah, who knows? The day is young, right?
Outstanding. Well, Joe, I appreciate it as always. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, for real, man. Anytime.
And for all the viewers and listeners, if you're looking for more information on how to reach out to Joe, the information will be in the about section below. Until next time, stick around. We got more of this stuff coming your way later.